Hello, my name is Ryan Cox, and today I'm going to be going over social inequalities and the Walt Disney Company. The point of this discussion is I'm going to be going over where Disney stood with social inequalities and kind of where they are now in three different categories. I'm going to be going over racism, gender roles, and sexual orientation. So I'm going to kind of be focusing on those three different categories. Now, to start, I believe it is important to lay the foundation of kind of where Disney is as a company, where they started, and where they were and where they are. So, a brief overview of the company. It was founded by Walt and Roy Disney in 1928. That right there is an important piece of information because it kind of paints the scene of the time frame that they were in. 1928, racism was still abundant. Gender roles were very clean cut. As women stay in the house, they do the cooking and the cleaning, that kind of thing. Men go off to work. It was a much more conservative time frame than we have nowadays. Um, so that kind of paints that image there, which I believe is an important thing to note. Now, Disney released its first full-length feature film in 1937, Snow White and Seven Dwarfs. Nothing like that had ever been done at the time, and so huge success. Really launched Disney as a company, um, and really started getting it to where it is today. They kept releasing films and different things until they were able to open up Disneyland in 1955. This again was brand new. Nobody had opened up a theme park, so it was another step of something brand new that Disney had done. Nowadays, they have two theme parks: Disneyland and Disney World down in Florida. And Disney's currently number one entertainment company in the world, own a lot of conglomerate companies such as ABC News, ESPN. It's really it has a lot of control, and it is able to really have a control of the media and what the images it gets across are. In an article in the Journal of Applied Social Psychology, uh, they say that Disney has made a trade in establishing a clear definition of what is right and wrong. And according to the study, Disney has the power to instill from a young age what is good and likewise what is bad. So Disney has the ability to set morals and things like that. So I think that's an important thing to note when moving forward with this. Now, where I want to start off with Disney and its social inequalities, now that we've laid the foundation, is Disney and racism. Um, they've come a long way and made a lot of strides from where it was, but back in the day, it had a lot of strong overtones in its films, with things, some apparent, some less apparent. Like there were only white heroes and heroines in all the movies. They were always white, looked American, with the exception of Aladdin. But whenever there was ethnic depictions, they were negative for a long time. You look at Dumbo, and you have African American talking crows who come across as extremely unintelligent. Or you have in the Jungle Book, you have apes who come across as African American and just want to be like the real man. So there's some pretty apparent ethnic depictions out there, um, and it kind of, a lot of them were overtones. Never really said that anything bad against it, except for in one film, and this is what a lot of critics believe to be Disney's most racist film. The thing that kind of hurt Disney the most with this. It was a film called Song of the South. Now, Song of the South was released in 1949, and the plot is it features a plantation worker who's happy being a plantation worker. He's happy working on the farm for the white man, and the premise of the movie is he's telling stories to the white children about Brer Rabbit and Brer Fox and an adventure of Brer Rabbit moving out of the briar patch. And it really was, in a lot of cases, people say blatantly obvious. Musical numbers such as Tar Baby, which in the film is actually a baby made out of tar, but back in the time was a very derogatory, very racist term. Um, it got so bad, and the critics were so in an uproar about this that Disney put the movie permanently in the vault. They haven't released it since the early '80s, and now, according to Jason Spurb, an article in Cinema Journal, this is the single worst thing that Disney could have done because by blatantly sweeping it under the rug, they've made the problem a lot worse. Now, Disney still features the characters Brer Rabbit and Brer Fox and all the characters from the movie, except for the plantation worker, in a ride called Splash Mountain, both in Disneyland and Disney World. Um, and so the characters are still there, but the film Disney tries to create some distance with it. So it really has kind of, you know, not been Disney's strongest point. Now, Disney has tried fighting racism in recent years, and one of the most notable and most prominent ways it's done this is a movie they released in 2009, Princess and the Frog. Now, this movie got a lot of critic acclaim when it first came out because it was the first African American princess Disney had ever featured. Just, I think, a big step in the right direction. With this film, Disney sought to overturn over 50 years of negative racial and gender images with the movie. And we'll get to the gender images part in just a minute. But with the racist or the racial parts, they tried having a lead African American, both male and female. And there were good reviews about it and good and bad reviews about it, about if Disney did a good job or not. Um, in his article in the Journal of African American Studies, Richard Brew makes the argument that Disney was actively fighting stereotypes that were formed in previous films by having a go-getter dominant African American lead woman had never been done in the past. So Disney really was making strides in the right direction. Now, in retrospect, Don England makes the argument that Tiana played into the standard female characteristics that Disney had established, and that they really didn't make any headway with anything. It was just kind of trying to be a people pleaser, trying to get the media off them about not having any African American or racial princesses at all. Now, but the main consensus that a lot of people said that it was a start. It was a step in the right direction. The Journal of American Culture, Neil Lester says that it's the start of Disney's attempts to bring equality to all its film and to have a more clear inclusion of minorities. And since then, they've had films like Brave, where there's been an Irish princess, and characters with more ethnic diversity are being introduced into the films. That's kind of where Disney is with it now. They're starting to push in the right direction. Now, obviously, it's kind of behind the times. Of where the rest of society is, but it is making steps in the right direction. So that's kind of where Disney stands with racism. Now, the second thing I'm going to be going over with Disney and inequalities is gender roles. Now, Disney, that's been another thing that people have said that Disney struggled with a lot in the past is gender roles. Because Disney movies often portray gender roles in very obvious ways in the past, and they've gotten better with it, but you look in the past, you have Snow White, she's sweeping and cleaning and cooking for the dwarves, and Sleeping Beauty, she's sewing. They're doing, submissive work that women did back in that time frame. While men have been more dominant, they've been go-getter, slay the dragon, rescue the princess kind of scenarios. Disney really has had a hard time kind of transitioning over to kind of have more equality with their gender roles. Now, Disney's been able to do this a little bit more by introducing characters, again, such as Tiana in Princess and the Frog, to where she's a go-getter after her dream, and while she's still going after the dream of cooking, she's still chasing her dream. She's the one going on the main adventure. Disney's really tried making the women seem less helpless and more, go-getter. Movies such as Brave, you have Princess Merida. She's actually an action hero. She shoots bows and uses swords. And, in Wreck, you have Princess Von Sweet. She's kind of like a go-getter, lead character, not really submissive anymore. Disney's kind of transitioned over to have women be a little bit more go-getter, but back in the day, it really was an issue. It was one of the big things that Disney tried fighting over. I mean, Cinderella did nothing but clean. So this has been an area that a lot of people said Disney has made great strides in. In her article in Atena, Lib Zernez says that Disney's kind of been getting away from feeding that only beautiful heterosexual white people deserve this happiness. They've kind of been like having more inclusion of the genders of races and kind of been coming together to create a more equal picture. So that's kind of where gender roles stands with Disney as a company. Now, the last part I want to talk about, and the part that people say that Disney has had the least strides in, is sexual orientation within its films and its media. Now, um, within Disney, they've never had an openly gay character. However, there has been some undertones and overtones of homosexuality. Um, Such as you have Timon and Pumbaa being adoptive fathers for Simba when he runs off, or you have in Bambi a character who his name is Flower, and he likes people calling him pretty. So there's kind of been like or undertones, but nothing really blatantly as far as blatant homosexual characters. In fact, all of Disney's fairy tales depict heterosexual relationships. So Disney's never really had anything that is kind of in support of homosexuality. Now, uh, one of the biggest controversies with Disney and its sexual orientation is something called Gay Day. Now, it's not an official Disney event, um, but every year tens of thousands of homosexuals gather in the Magic Kingdom wearing red on June 6th. It's just a tradition they've started. People who are either in support of homosexuality or who are homosexual themselves go, and it's currently the single largest gay pride event in the world. Um, it's because it's both in Disneyland and in Disney World. Now, this has caused a lot of controversy for Disney um, because it actually led to a boycott by Baptists around the world, widespread boycott. Newsweek said that 15.3 million Baptists will have nothing to do with Disney as long as they continue to allow Gay Day to happen. They say that Disney can't walk the line of being a family company but also having homosexuality because they believe that fights with, traditional family values. They fly warning banners over the park saying, stay out, it's Disney's Gay Day, and so it's really been an issue. And it's not just the Baptist. The American Family Association is also on board with the boycott, cutting all of its support to Disney. Now, when you talk about the numbers, it's really not a huge impact on Disney's financial standpoints, but at the same time, it's a huge group of people who are boycotting Disney, who are saying that it's they're pulling support from it. The thing that U.S. News and World Report says, though, that the Baptists were most upset about was when they found out that Disney has health benefit it offers to gay partners that are employed with Disney. So it offers the same kind of benefits for them that it does for traditional families. So this is still an unresolved issue. There's the boycott still by a lot of Baptists still going on. Gay Day still happens, gets bigger and bigger every year. Disney, to this point, again, it's not an official event. They refuse to make it an official event. They think it's going to bring them a lot of negative press, but that's kind of where Disney stands with it. So at this point, when it comes to homosexuality in their films and the sexual orientation, there's still a lot left to be desired. It hasn't really covered really anything as far as like apparent homosexual couples. And there's actually a study by Lisa Tanner that says that the oversimplification of relationships and couples, it can actually be detrimental to youth because it is painting the image that heterosexual is good, and if you're not heterosexual, it's not normal, it's bad. So, but this is the one area that Disney there's still a lot left to be desired. So, this has kind of been a summary of where Disney has stood with its social inequalities of where it was and where it is within these three categories. Again, it's just kind of a brief overlay of where it was and where it is. So this has been my presentations. If you have any question, feel free to email me.